There is something uniquely unsettling about an empty neighbourhood. Not grand ruins or collapsed cities, but rows of houses that still look ready to be lived in. Lawns remain trimmed, driveways are intact, windows stare outward as if waiting for someone to come home. These places were built for routine, morning commutes, evening lights, the quiet rhythm of ordinary life. And yet, that rhythm has stopped. The absence of children, cars, and distant conversations creates a void that wasn't meant to exist. The neighbourhood doesn't look destroyed. It looks paused, as if the people who lived here stepped out briefly and never returned. Spring and summer, I walk around the neighbourhood at night. Many houses' blinds and shades are open. I can see inside, but almost never do I see anyone inside. When I kept seeing these seemingly empty houses with cars in the front, over and over, I started getting really disturbed. Where are these people? To keep things brief, I started entering houses. Only a few have been locked. I've entered 10 so far. No one has been in these houses. The lights are on, but I've never found anyone inside. When I've checked the upper floors, I found that all the expected furniture isn't there. 8 of them had no beds. The last house I went into had 4 cars parked outside at 8 p.m. I entered through the front door, which was unlocked. I searched the entire house. No one was in there. What the hell is this? Nothing I've ever experienced before has distorted my whole worldview like this. I think something horrible happened. Almost everyone died, and the rest of us are in a psychotic haze from the trauma, imagining people who aren't there to cope. Either that, or we, or I, am the victim of some very twisted experiment. Guys, I do door-to-door sales. Been doing it for years. This year I've noticed tons of hangers, flyers, business cards dusted on doors, with houses that have cars and items that show someone living there. Yet I knock very loud with no response, and these flyers sit there undisturbed. I knock over 150 plus houses a day and will come across 30 plus of these at least. The other houses will have cars or signs of life, but no response from the loudest knocks or rings. Something is definitely up. Not many people are responding to my door knocks now. I've smelt strange smells where it smells like someone died behind that door, with a dusted flyer stuck on the handle. So, a house takes over 6 months to build and requires at least 20 contractors. The bank takes most of the money from the mortgage. It cannot possibly be a good investment unless you're a major company that buys in bulk, or you're being subsidized by a government or bank. It never made sense to me that magically the entire country and countryside is filled with infinite houses. There is literally not a 10-mile stretch without a Walmart or McDonald's. Yet, where are the tens of millions of builders required for this? Immigrants basically only go to the coasts, which use apartments. There is no major population growth in the middle of the country without excess from the coasts flooding in to replenish. Now, if you're a small town, all the kids you send out for college will be replaced by imported people or city refugees. There should be no expansion in all this movement. Even illegals are counted by first world population decline. Who the hell is building houses between towns and cities and living there? There are always farms that can't possibly compete with Monsanto or McMansions. Yet when you go up to them, they're empty. My friends and I found an entire town of empty condos, although they did get filled very sparsely. But the entire town seemed blank and unfinished. There were weird coincidences, such as seeing 666 on a sign, and my friends and I speaking Spanish for practice. Then two women pop up out of nowhere speaking Spanish. So I've lived both in Middle America and the coasts. There is nowhere that is truly just nature, except for parks. There are always houses that are upkept, yet you never see anyone go in or out. Sometimes the lights are on, but you could watch them for days and you're ready. Nobody is going in or out. Furthermore, these towns are always holding events or have special clubs. But there are no young people there or at these places. It's always Grandpa Simpson and his war buddies, and increasingly less so. Again, we are told the population is exploding, yet many of the houses are empty. Even in first-ring suburbs, you could watch houses for days and nothing will happen. Illegals only go to cities, and there are more and more homeless. But none of these houses are in disrepair like a crack shack in the hood. I swear, in shitty neighbourhoods, houses fall apart like normal. But somehow, if a house isn't close to a city, it's magically resistant. Now we know occasionally houses get used to conceal places of business. Recently, some businesses admitted they were buying houses to disguise utility equipment. What if over half the houses are utility equipment or hard assets bought by businesses because they depreciate slower than inflation? This is very pragmatic and realistic. It also means major businesses, which we all know are secretly even larger companies using older labels once bought out, have hundreds, if not thousands of spare houses where they could do things and store things, but have no witnesses. Now, what makes it better to not rent these houses? Storage or usage for utility. What is the major utility whose prominence and usage don't align? I can think of two: internet data and internet processing power. What if the internet is actually stored across tens of thousands of houses across the USA? I went to another suburb that was haphazardly placed mansions or townhouses and parking lots. Otherwise, it was flat land with large haps of empty space. It was like Courage the Cowardly Dog, but replace houses with Starbucks and strip malls. And there was some forest, admittedly. Now, I'm one of those people who attracts coincidences. I'll study the Civil War, the next day there will be a bearded man, and my friend will say, "That guy looks like he's from the Civil War," not knowing I studied it. I've also seen real versions of cartoon/animation characters after seeing the animation. Like the mum from Bob's Burgers. Someone with her voice or body at a mundane job after seeing a clip of the show which I normally don't watch. I have made several posts that end in 666 and seen the number over 100 times. Not even in names, just in view counts or upvotes. It started getting annoying to constantly screenshot these things, and so I decided to stop. And then I stopped seeing them. How are these connected? Let me ask you this. Do you believe in ghosts? A ghost would include anything from a guardian angel, genie, tutory, shadow people, or the traditional sense, or the vague thing that moans. I do believe there are these disembodied spirits. There are a few more stories I want to tell involving these entities, but I don't think it's safe, nor would they make sense without knowing a lot about me. Let's just say they are mirrors of your expectations and needs more than anything with an agenda. I assume a summoning ritual is really dumping your feelings into a shapeshifter, and it takes a form that aligns with the ritual's intentions, effort and purpose, etc. Almost always, there will be a Masonic lodge near these spirits. That 666 I saw was literally across the road from a lodge. The connection with the empty houses full of computers is that Masons or some other secret society figured out how to employ these spirits to be spies, builders and good citizens among other background roles in society. Thus, many of these empty houses are storage chambers for ghosts who create the illusion of being a person, but it's really some malleable thing. Their houses may look lived in, but it's all illusion. So besides computers, the other thing they store are ghosts. Thus, a substantial portion of internet activity may be ghosts trapped in machines that force them to be AI. Rudolf Steiner talks about how processing power alone can entrap spirits, not to mention circuitry and vigils are basically the same. AI is really just multi-dimensional matrix math. So basically, pattern detection across arrays of arrays of arrays, where the connections are weighted and given some value like pixel color. Thus, a wolf's face is just a connection of pixels of certain proportions which can be scaled or changed in color. But that basic proportion is there. Well, it just so happens the Greek word for proportion is logos. These ratios and logi are consubstantial. The logos was the spirit behind any psychological concept, the pattern in the brain, which is a literal thing in a higher metaphysical realm. Replace numbers with brain chemicals or DNA or some other organic substance and you can see logi. If 100 men all perform a ritual for their concept of sexy woman and apply it to some disembodied spiritual gradient, you will then spawn the material atom combination average, which best maps to that sexy woman. Apply free will, and lo and behold, you've raised a ghost which can run its own life. With computers and math, this can be done automatically. So the elites can basically print human beings. I've been in 16 houses now, all unlocked and all empty. Furniture is often placed so the house looks occupied when viewed through windows, while it's conspicuously missing from the parts of the house that can't be seen on the street. I'm certain most of my neighbourhood is fake now. No amount of real estate economic fag rationalisation is making this go away. So you glotards can piss off. Smartest Anon in the last thread pointed out the Masons might be involved. There's a Masonic lodge close to my neighbourhood. I paid them a visit. Asked the guy in there if he thinks it's weird that so few houses on my street are occupied. He looked confused, but as I stared him down, I felt his fear. He knew I knew. He put his hand over his eyes and quickly scurried away from his desk towards a door in the back, hunched over like some leprechaun that just stole the gold. I book it the fuck out of there, thinking he's about to summon Masonic death squad on me. I'm lying low at home for a while. Don't know what's going to happen. They're hiding what they've done. I joined the Masons to look for PID Satanists to off, or else join a cool fraternity if the rumours run founded. A year after joining in South Dakota, I've only met solid people who have been friendly. Some hold to the lessons in the ritual more than others, but mostly they just offered good condolences when my daughter died. She was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome before I joined the Masons. They had no part in her death. Most of my conversations, before and after meeting time, we talk about old technology, like Edison batteries, and computer part stores that are or were in business, and who to shop with. I'm still keeping my eyes peeled for conspiracy. But so far, it mostly comes down to no one who isn't a Mason needs to know how many security certificates a given lodge is holding on to as investments to keep the lodge running. That much is a conspiracy in a literal sense, but nothing malicious. When my wife and I joined the Eastern Star, they paid for our hotel stay and meals. We just had to show up dressed nice. We're poor. Most Masons aren't. So I appreciate that they hold to the ritual wording about helping brothers and their families, regardless of situation. I can't speak for lodges outside of South Dakota because I joined after moving here. But the worst Mason I met was a Cowan who ran around wearing his late great-uncle's Masonic belt buckles and rings without joining the fraternity himself. Car and ring salesman I knew before I moved to South Dakota. He was an alright enough guy, but I think poseurs pretending to be Masons give the frat a bad name. I've met a couple of people with Eye of Providence / square and compass tattoos, and they got them because they thought they looked cool, not because they were Freemasons. I remember on the show Ghost Brothers, they did a special on an old Masonic building. I forgot if it was a former lodge or just built by Masons. Didn't look like a lodge from what I recall. I watched a show about 5 years ago. They had documents attesting it was originally built as a place to concentrate, contain, or do something with negative energy. My experience firsthand is that 1 in 20 or less Masons is concerned with practical magic. It reminds me of a quote I got from this board. Elites get into magic as a hobby. Peasants have no choice but to learn it as a matter of survival. There's some truth to the stories that get told. One of those Masons into magic I met at my 3rd degree. We received ours at the same time. But his home lodge has a higher standard for proficiency than the Grand Lodge, my home lodge, have. So I am considered a Master Mason, while he's a fellow craft, waiting to pass his proficiency test and can't sit in on a 3rd degree meeting. Sounds kind of janky to me, and like it confirms the rumours of you'll get stuck at a lower degree until you prove you understand them. But I think in practice it has more to do with his home lodge is in a city more likely to get visiting Masons from other territories. Mine is rural. I don't know what to say, man. Hasatan or Satan means the adversary. I'm only your adversary if that's how you view me. Just throwing things out there, but not saying this is what happens. The federal government's buys homes and sometimes entire neighbourhoods for housing VIP types like confidential informants and other people who are thought to be in danger. Other private special interest groups sometimes buy housing in order to control the immediate area without having to go through the cost and effort with purpose building a gated community. I know a neighbourhood in California that houses literal freaks, as in midgets, giants, bearded women, so on. It looks just like a normal neighbourhood because that's what it was before that group of people bought every home in the area. This specific instance happens more often than people realise. That's why an episode of The X-Files and My Name is Earl involve a freak-owned neighbourhood. There is also the criminal angle. In Breaking Bad, Gus buys a neighbourhood to create one large safe house that looks like a half-dozen normal houses. Most of Breaking Bad was inspired by real cartel behaviour. In reality, cartels have done things like this. About 15 years ago, they were caught doing this to build tunnels running under the border. Anyway, be careful, OP. There may be a very rational but dangerous reason why these homes are owned, furnished, but not lived in. There's also the possibility that these all could be an entrance or exit point of underground bases, as this user points out. Perhaps the most unsettling part of Dead Neighbourhoods is that they don't feel like ruins. They feel paused, as if life stepped away for a moment and never returned. The houses remain ready, the streets remain open, but the absence lingers like an echo that never fades. These places remind us that human presence is temporary, that homes, streets, and entire communities can outlive the lives that once filled them. What was once laughter, movement, and routine becomes silence and stillness, preserved not as history, but as a question left unanswered. And as we look at these empty streets, it becomes impossible not to wonder, if time and circumstance can erase a neighbourhood so completely, how fragile is the sense of permanence we build around our own lives?